ጤና ይስጥልን የተከበራችሁ የአዲስ ቅኝት አድማጭ ተመልካቾቻችን ይህ ቨርቹዋል ቡናን ጠጣ ዝግጅታችን ነው። እናንተ ቡና ከጋበዛችሁን ደስ ይለናል። እኛም ቡና ስንጋብዛችሁ ብትመጡ በአክብሮት እናስተናግዳችኋለን። እስከ ፕሮግራሙ ፍጻሜ ከኛ ጋር አሁን
First, I would like to ask you why you choose this place.
It's quiet.
It's quiet.
Out of the way. There's not a lot of people around, and it's a perfect place where we can talk peacefully. Yeah. It's just I know it when I go to the grocery store.
Indigenous people and Canadians who are fighting for the rights and equal treatment of the native people in Canada were praising the appointment of Mary Simon as Canada's first Governor-General from the indigenous community. Mary Simon was appointed a week before as Governor-General of Canada. She is a veteran Inuit leader who promised to make bridge between indigenous people and other Canadians. New perspective-አዲስቅኝት media service had a conversation about this historical challenge of native people in Canada, how historical problems and residential school system and the very harsh treatment of previous governments affected the life of today's indigenous person in Canada. With a native man from Ojibwe First Nation. He lives on the west end of Toronto on Roncy. His friends call him Al. A very nice conversation about his life and experience. Before we move to our conversation, let's have a bite from the great writer and philosopher John Ralston Saul's book The Comeback. On page 62, John Ralston Saul wrote the following under the title Family Names. The First Nations see the treaties very clearly, and again, the Supreme Court has repeatedly made it plain over the last few decades that Aboriginals are right, the government wrong. Right about what? That the crude European concept of ownership, a great deal of control with very little responsibility, has been artificially imposed on the situation. That people belong to families and communities which are part of a treaty. The point is not one of ownership of land. They have responsibility within it, not over it. Through the treaties, non-First Nation people entered into various First Nation circles. We became part of those families and communities. Authorities like the Governor-General were called grandfather, Queen Victoria, grandmother, and the Prime Minister, father. Not because the Indians were children, as London and Ottawa choose to interpret these words, but because such people were treated as elders in the family. They deserved terms of respect along with other elders. Governor-General Lorne was called brother-in-law because he had married Queen Victoria's daughter. Great much admired chiefs or firekeepers were often called grandfathers. At a lesser level, they were fathers. And if people of power meet to discuss arrangements, well, the elders must be present to represent the unwritten authority of the community. In this context, the treaty people, all of us, are bound by our shared obligations as family and community members. Whether we are elders or active adults or children, our responsibilities are tied not to power relationships, but rather to the obligations of shared belonging. This is a sophisticated and accurate representation of our reality, and we are particularly lucky because this interpretation represents a powerful tool for the way most Canadians imagine their country.
Okay, welcome to the New Perspective show, Al. First, I want to know what's your real name is. Or your real name, Al.
Alan.
mean, if you have Alan.
Yes.
Okay, you have an original name from
My native name is Shibayosage.
Shibayosage.
Yes.
Okay. So what does that mean?
It means the morning sun.
The morning sun.
Yes.
That's a beautiful name. So you belong to the
I am Ojibwe.
Ojibwe.
Yes.
Let me ask you about your background first. Where do you born and what was your childhood like?
We grew up on Manitoulin Island, on a reserve there. There's several on Manitoulin Island.
Yeah.
I moved down here in 1987 to finish high school, and I've been pretty much staying down here since that time.
Okay, so you finished your high school in
Yes.
Toronto. What was your childhood like? I mean, in Manitoba.
It was hard. We didn't have a lot of money. There was no work on the reserve. Very few people had employment, so welfare and poverty were pretty normal life.
How the families are living? What's the income and what's the living condition there in those days?
When we grew up, they started bringing water into our community and the sewer system in the mid-70s, early 80s. They started working on infrastructure to give us running water, a sewage system. So there wasn't a lot of necessities that we consider today present.
Yeah.
Most homes were heated by a fire. Wood stove was common, very common. So.
I mean, for a newcomer like me and for most new Canadians, it's not easy to understand what's indigenous people, life is in Canada.
Okay.
And how they face those challenges.
We were very poor. We didn't fit in a lot of places. Schooling was totally different. We were often bussed off to go to high school or bussed out of the communities to go to school. I was fortunate on our reserve. We did have a day school, considered a residential day school. My mom and dad were products of the residential school system, however, where they were taken off reserve. So.
Were you forced to go to that school, or your parents send you to school?
Our parents would send us to there because it was on reserve, so we can come home every night.
But the other students were forced to and taken to...
No, I would say when the choice became available for a day school, most parents agreed that it's better to send your kid so we can come home at the end of each day.
Yeah.
And still try and give him a background of who he is or his culture or maybe just his language.
The school is occupied with indigenous students?
Yes, only indigenous. The teachers were all from a non-native community, the white community. Even in our history classes, we were never taught anything about our history. We were taught about English history.
So which means the plan was to wash out what you already have.
Yes, exactly. To make you to fit more into a non-native society.
So do you think they were successful doing that?
Yeah, most natives to this day don't have their language anymore. Most natives seek rewards that non-natives have. We don't have that belief anymore of the teachings my dad grew up with, the teachings I grew up with share what we have, care for other people, respect. All of that is being washed away now with Native people.
You were lucky, I think, growing up with your parents. You still keep the language and the culture.
Yes.
So, but most indigenous kids.
No, I would say 95% don't.
Yeah. So then you finish up to grade 8 there?
Yeah. I started high school. I was shipped off on the bus from grade 9 and 10 and 11. When I went into grade 12, my sister was living here in Toronto. And I asked her if I can come and finish my school here. And she agreed to let me come and live with her while I did my grade 12, and just to see something different.
Yeah.
Here in Toronto, it was very mixed. My school was Italian, there was Indian, there was Portuguese. Back home, it was just native and white people. So there was a lot of different choices here.
Where you feel...
I felt I fit more in here than I did back home
Yeah.
because of it being only a two-race society.
And when you came to Toronto and when you joined other Canadians, did you feel home?
I felt more at ease because there was so many different types of people. Back home it was always native and non-native. Here it was multicultural.
Yeah.
Everybody. And here white people were not predominant or the dominant race. Here it is all different backgrounds.
So that gives you relief.
It gives me a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
So
In those days, the difference between the other Canadians and
Yes.
the indigenous Canadians.
yes,
So do they have sympathy those days?
they knew we were different.
Yes.
But we still didn't learn anything about it. My history classes were always English history, French history. We never learned about the Native people or the benefits that Native people brought to white people when they landed here, when the medicines, the teaching of how to live off this land, and we weren't taught any of that.
Your community, the Jobe, the First Nation. I know there are different cultural differences, but what's the commonality between the indigenous people?
Family.
Family.
Family comes first, and only family first. We look after all of our people. We care for our elders. We care for the sick. We care for people that need help.
Yeah.
You share what you can.
You have your own organizational structure, like from the
But-
chief to the to.
Well, every place has their own structure, but in a belief system, natives are a traditional native believes in a certain way of things.
Yes.
Family first.
Yeah.
Share what we have, respect to other people. That's not necessarily for every native person, based on the beliefs or the teachings that they've learned in school.
Yeah. Is there any writing? Do you have any script?
No.
Any alphabet
No.
to write the language?
Well, there is, but it's very complicated, and not very many people, including myself, know how to do it properly.
Because you didn't learn it.
We didn't learn it. I learned the ABCs.
So when you want to write, how do you write your language using the English
Yeah.
alphabet? Okay. Recently there was an election in the
Yes.
indigenous community, and there is a new.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what your feelings?
It's good we have a woman native. It shows that we accept whoever you are. We're not necessarily man is strongest. In native culture, a true native believes that the woman is the strongest person in the family.
This is true in all indigenous communities.
As long as they still believe in the traditional values. The reason that women are the strongest is because they have the power of birth. And so when I look at her being elected for national chief, I embrace it. I am glad that a woman is going to, because it gives Canada the chance to see a different viewpoint. Yeah, male chiefs, yeah, it's always the same. We want to do this, we want to do that. Her first thing when she says is she wants to try and take care of the children.
And she was fighting for the indigenous right.
She's been fighting for it for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
But do you think now she becomes successful of what she have been doing?
Because she's national chief? No, not yet. She's got a long ways to go, but with people like Justin Trudeau that are more open to helping Native people now, as opposed to previous prime ministers and previous history, maybe now they can start to work together properly.
What's your feeling about the peace and reconciliation thing? I mean, it's been there for a long time.
It won't happen in this decade. It's not something that we're going to solve in a year or two, and it's not going to be solved until we rewrite history on the way history was actually, how it actually happened in this country. And it's only been going on for about 5 years. We still haven't gotten anywhere. People are still trying to figure out, okay, what is it actually we're trying to accomplish? We're not trying to accomplish taking back the land. We're not trying to accomplish that we are the better people. We're just trying to accomplish the fact that you have to learn to understand and respect us also.
The new Governor General said that she wants to make a bridge between indigenous people and the other Canadians, and she wants to work on that.
Yes.
Do you think she will get support from the indigenous community
Yes, she will.
to make this happen?
Yeah. We've been wanting it for a long time. We want to be invited to the table.
Yeah.
The table that makes the decision. We don't want to be a byproduct where after that table has their meeting, they come and let us know, okay, this is what's going to happen. We want to be able to sit at the table and say, this is what needs to happen.
How do you see the response from other Canadians? I mean, not from the politicians, but the society.
Shock.
Do you think shock?
Yeah.
I mean, do they understand your feeling, your pain?
Yeah. 90% of the people that I know never knew about this stuff. A lot of them are appalled to find out that they were still schools in '96 that were open. They didn't know that our communities don't have running water or proper drinking water. Half the communities in Northern Ontario are under boiled water, and they've been like that for decades. Around Hudson's Bay area, where suicide and alcoholism is rampant in the community because that's all they have. They have nothing. The government put them in that location, and that's where they're stuck at.
So nobody looking after
No, nothing like
and
that.
they don't have their own administrative right, I mean, to change that.
Well, they have their own governing body on that community, but what can one little governing body do to the big picture if it's Canada that decides? Like I said, we're not at the table.
The residential school system is there for about a century or even...
Residential schools have been around since the 1800s. It's been a long time.
Yeah, so it was officially stopped in
1996 was the last one that closed.
Yeah.
And that's not that long ago.
Yeah. What I don't understand is how come all those kids were died and burned at the back of their school? Were they killed or
Nobody
were
knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows, and it wouldn't be fair of me to say I think this is what happened, because until you or I actually hear something or see a record, we shouldn't be judging. We shouldn't be judging the Catholic Church or the Native communities. I think that's wrong. I think we need to hear first, and we need to see documents from the churches. We need to see past history and to understand where these people actually came from.
Yeah. So do you think the Catholic Church will release those documents to make things clear?
I think most of them will.
Okay. And the Catholic Church officially from the Vatican, they don't want to apologize. Especially the Pope don't want to apologize.
They don't want to acknowledge that they were a big part of the problem.
So what kind of feeling that gives you? I mean,
Well, it would make anybody upset. It would make anybody mad. If you did something and you know you did it, you have to learn to take the responsibility for it. And if you don't take the responsibility for it, then what do you expect of the Native people of Canada to do? Now look at them, what they're doing. They're burning churches, which is wrong, because they need to start to work together, and that is not working together.
so that's the anger, how the indigenous people are showing their anger. But it's not right. So it makes it complicated. I mean.
Yes.
But do you think the Pope will soon accept the apologies?
I don't have any idea what the Catholic Church is thinking about at this point.
The new elected chief, indigenous chief, said that her first
She would like
plan
to
is
reach out.
to visit the Pope.
Yes.
So hopefully we see some kind of change. When
Something.
they meet face to face.
Yeah.
But they are Canadian Catholic leaders. Some of them are accepting the
Responsibility.
apologize.
Yes.
That's at least that's one step forward.
Yeah.
And now tell me, how do you explain the good value of the indigenous people in Canada for a newcomer?
Share what we have and respect everybody. Give everybody the same amount of respect that you want.
Yeah.
Share, if you can help somebody by giving them the shirt off of your back and it doesn't affect you, then do it. But give everybody that respect that they deserve, because we are all people.
Politicians are talking about environment and about the green economy, and the world is working on to make the world green. But the indigenous communities are living green for centuries.
Yes.
And they are protecting nature. And do you think Canadians learn something from the indigenous people when it comes to
I would hope they
nature?
do.
And
I would hope they would. But everybody is different. Some people can learn, some people choose to learn, some people don't.
Tell me about yourself. What's your life like, and how do you live in Toronto, and what's your relation with other Canadians living in this multicultural city?
I work hard.
I mean, how do you earn your life, and what did you learn in the school when you were in high school level, college? I don't know if you went to college.
I work in the construction industry in Toronto. I've been a union member for a long time. I work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, 5 days a week. And I think that if people want to help themselves, there is opportunity out there to get ahead. You don't have to say, poor me. There's a lot of people in this country that will say it. You don't have to do it here. You can get a job. You can make something of yourself. It's your choice.
I know you are a very busy person. I see you always with your working suits and coming back from work. We meet sometimes for a coffee. Ask you what do you expect in the future when it comes to these problems that we have at hand, and about the future of the indigenous
I would hope that in my lifetime I see change in this country. That I see people
በየትኛውም